And people would call my style kind of. I was even surprised sometimes I see something being just manwon that is like really good quality. And like manwon for me in Sweden, that would not happen. Like. 안녕하세요. 저는 스웨덴에서 온 마기다라고 해요. I used to buy a lot more. Right now I don't have that much money, but before I used to buy a lot of clothes. I think what was the best way to describe it? Like imagine a office working woman in the early 90s. That somehow says my style. Because I like kind of, how can I say, kind of slack office style. So like I would like to wear these kind of pants a lot. I don't have like a favorite brand necessarily, but there's some second-hand brands that I really like from like Instagram because they have some nice stuff, but there's no specific brand because I personally think there is some good stuff from everywhere and bad stuff from everywhere. I think, isn't like Spao, I'm just thinking about it, 8 seconds. 8 seconds has a lot of like suit clothes, so I like that. I always go there and I look at the pants and I go, soon you'll be mine in the future. Actually, it's different. I think, but also my style has evolved during the years, but I think a main reason was when I was in Sweden, I really wanted to stand out a lot. And people would call my style kind of grandma style. I used to wear really large hats and like long skirts, like really a lot of flowy skirts and stuff. And I had both really short hair and really long hair. And I would do my nails every day and just very much more extreme with much bigger jewelry, much like I wore so many rings and so much earrings and stuff. But then when I came to Korea, I'm already standing out a lot, right? Because I'm a foreigner. And it got kind of bothersome to be standing out. So somehow my style tended to get more muted, which I've been slightly sad about. Like, because I want to, you know, wear what I want to, but at the same time I'm thinking, will I stand out too much? Like, will that be bothersome? But now I think I'm somehow getting out of that shell again and being more like, okay, now I want to wear what I want to wear and try not to care what people think. Actually, recently a lot of people told me, my friends told me, like Korean style clothing got really popular in Sweden. I'm thinking like a lot about like the skirts. You know, like tennis skirts was really popular in Korea with the K-pop, and it got really popular in Sweden as well. And a lot of the makeup trends as well. So like, not from my own experience because it's been a while, but like nowadays my friends have told me that like Korean style is getting really popular. So it's quite interesting. Like they're wearing it, stuff that I remember being really popular here, they're wearing it like a year later. And I was like, oh, okay, so now you're getting that thing that we had 1 year ago. So that was cool.
So today's topic is about Korean clothing store.
Yeah, it's very, very different than what I'm used to actually.
So
Yeah.
the first point is that the price here is generally cheaper than in Sweden.
Yeah. Basically, as I said, like H&M would be one of the cheaper points. But I think also, you know, when you're buying fast fashion, which is very common in Korea, even though the price is quite cheap, the quality will be slightly worse. Basically, in Sweden, like I would always want to go shopping, but I couldn't buy that many items when I did go shopping because, you know, it's quite expensive, and I would more like invest in a good item rather than like just buying a lot of stuff. But in Korea, I tended to just buy more things but more cheaply. And you can definitely, if you want to invest in good stuff in Korea, you can do that as well because there's so many department stores everywhere with really good quality stuff that actually is not that expensive when you think about it, like in the scope of the world. I was even surprised sometimes I see something being just manwon that is like really good quality. And like manwon for me in Sweden, that would not happen. Like manwon is like maybe like a top, like a nashi, like a really cheap one. Barely that one would be manwon. So like when I started seeing stuff being manwon in Korea, I was like, what the heck? Like this is so cheap. Even this goes down to like 5,000 won sometimes, and I was like, how does this even? This is beautiful. This is amazing. And I shopped way too much in the beginning. Yeah, so for example, in the video that I shot earlier, you can see that there is a lot of actually cheap clothes even in the department stores, and there's so much things to choose between, and there's both like more expensive department stores and cheaper department stores if you know where to go, and that one was, I think, more affordable ones.
Today I'm in a shopping mall here in Wangsimni. As you can see, it's quite fancy. Actually, much fancier than I expected. And I am going to check out the clothes and the different prices. That's the difference between Sweden and Korea. Actually, I found that Korea is a lot cheaper than Sweden a lot, even though I'm in like a shopping mall right now. The price is quite cheap compared to Sweden. Like Sweden, like was I think H&M was the cheapest thing I could find when I was younger. Here, if you go on the street in Hongdae or Ide, everything's so cheap. But obviously, if it's quite cheap, sometimes it's worse quality. But I think if you shop here in this kind of place, you can find quite good and cheap, like good quality and cheap price. So let's check it out. Let's see. Actually, I was quite surprised this store. You can see someone has like lamon for a lot of clothes, and it's quite nice quality. Like I really like this kind of pants. Actually, you can see I'm always wearing like dress pants, so I really like buying this kind of thing. So if I can find a cheap price, then that's really the best thing. So much cheaper than like I would expect in other countries, and like now the quality is really good. I'm looking at different prices. Yeah, it's quite shocking actually. Shame I have no money. It's quite surprising to have such a fancy place being so cheap. Maybe to other countries this is not cheap. I know other countries have very cheap, but in Sweden, like clothes and stuff is really expensive. So I tended not to buy clothes as often as in Korea. Especially like bags are really cheap in Korea. Bags, and what else do I buy a lot? Like hats. I tend to buy a lot more in Korea. Like in Sweden, I never bought bags, but bags are so cheap. Like even this one I bought really cheaply, so that's nice.
So the second point is there are many new brands.
Yeah, I think there's always new brands popping up in Korea. Like I'm getting so much commercial for it. And also working as a model, I keep doing lookbooks for new smaller brands that is, you know, put in the websites. For example, like in department stores, and there's so many new ideas and things all the time. So I think that is much more intense in Korea than any other place I have been, at least. But of course, I lived in a really small city in Sweden, so I can't say for sure.
The third point is that the sizes are mostly smaller.
Yeah, actually, like when I first came to Korea, I found it quite nice because in Sweden, actually, the sizes didn't really fit me that well, except for pants. So in Korea, I would always say pants for me is the most, like pants and skirts is so difficult because usually, I don't know why, but like they're quite straight. And like for me, like you can, like doesn't fit the butt ratio on me. So like that's why it's hard to put on pants sometimes in Korea. But also like the tops are so small. Sometimes I see it and I'm thinking, is this for a child? Like who can wear this? Like I'm so shocked. The most Europeans or most Westerners people, when they come to Korea, they cannot buy clothes because it's so small. And also shoes also generally have smaller size. But I'm quite happy because I have really small feet. And in Sweden, it was so difficult to find shoes my size, but in Korea it's so easy. So I had some opposite luck in that. I don't know, there's so many small differences, but I say the most difficult one is the pants. I say if you're thinking about coming to Korea, you should stock up on pants and shoes. So today I talked about the characteristics of Korean shopping malls and clothing and stores and all of that. 이 영상 재밌게 봤으면 구독하고 좋아하고 댓글 남겨주세요. Bye.